So, I guess today's the 10th anniversary of a movie we're not too big fans of.
Yes, a veritable auspicious occasion, this.
Yeah. Uh, well, I mean, in case you haven't noticed, Zuka and I do have some. We're pretty much kindred spirits.
And in this case, we see eye to eye on a film that I believe is Sam Raimi's nadir shortly before his ascent back into good graces. The film, of course, if you know your filmic dates, is Drag Me to Hell, which some audience members doubtlessly were hollering on their way out of the theater.
It seems like a oddly popular movie, though. I don't know.
I attribute that more to wanting. They wanted more Evil Dead, the Sam Raimi fans. And they were looking for any sort of drop in a desert, and they couldn't get it. But then they did get it with Ash vs. Evil Dead.
I think this sounds extreme, but I think this may actually be the worst movie, like literally the worst movie I've ever seen. At least my least favorite.
I would say it's my least favorite because that is a strong contender in a long list of least favorites. uh, and it did supply me with some concepts that I've used in my own writings. But to be perfectly frank, the source of inspiration could just as easily have been the Trials of Hercules, where he saved his paisano from the underworld. But with this film, I don't know. It just left a bad taste in the mouth. It didn't have a satisfying conclusion, and when you get down to brass tacks, you have to hate the Romanian core if you're going to depict them as irredeemably horrible as they are in this film.
Oh yes. I think, and I've already acknowledged my review, which is probably my most vicious review on my blog. But the worst part is that apparently Sam Raimi, unless he's really dedicatedly trolling, apparently thinks like the protagonist of this movie got what she deserved. And we're gonna go into the reasons why this is absurd.
Yeah, I don't think that given what we see in the film, she in any way deserved that. Because we're not just talking equal measures here. We're not talking eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. This is there because for the third time in as many months, she has failed to pay off, that month's loan. And there's mortgage. And I am no fan of banks by any stretch of the imagination, but that seemed uncharacteristically charitable for a bank to do.
And the thing is, like, another thing is, like, she's also gunning for promotion, which it's heavily implied that her decision on this will probably decide that. Although, I think another thing that's really interesting is the person she's competing against is an asshole. So it's not really her ambition that's on the line, but just the general work environment for everybody is on the line. So it's not just her.
Yeah, yeah, and anyone who has seen Office Space, a masterpiece by Mike Judge, yes, that Mike Judge, knows that an office environment is a horrible dystopian Darwinian test tube of wretchedness. And there's there's either playing the game and uh, ensuring that your time there isn't wasted, that you at least can have a career that you're at least somewhat proud of, feel like you're contributing something, or you dig in your heels and continue to do the ridiculous boomer-esque minutia that is asked of you in perpetuity. And, you know, to be frank, the pressure to do right by the company is insane in those environments. So we're talking about a person who already dispensed inordinate charity to, and you know, the line has to be drawn somewhere, and it's clear that this woman is not without support. I mean, we see freaking dozens of people show up to her funeral later. You're telling me that not one of them, or you know, all of them chipping in, could have helped her float?
Pretty much. Which, by the way, this is kind of problematic in its own right.
That's why I've been using the politically correct term.
Yeah.
But once you get in trouble,
it is probably not pretty offensive depiction of, you know, the Romani as literally the worst people on the planet. But so I guess, you know, aside from that kind of offensiveness in this movie, the whole thing is that this old woman puts like a damnation curse on this, and like she's basically going to die in a certain set amount of time and then get dragged to hell. And I think, you know, maybe this could have worked as some sort of morality tale if if Sam Raimi cheated. So it was like, oh, this is like goofy cartoon hell or something. But no, it's not sanitized at all. Like she is.
Yeah,
she goes to hell.
We're not talking Far Side hell. Yeah, we're not talking Far Side hell. We're not talking Looney Tunes hell. We're not talking even Robot Chicken hell. We're not even talking falling through the floor and dropping down into Perdition's flame hell. We're talking. We're talking fire and brimstone, roasting your soul for eternity.
Yeah.
We're talking hardcore Dante's Inferno.
In other words, humor.
Yeah, ha 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 ha, so funny. This the whole morality angle, I think gets dramatically skewed when again you look at the retribution and the weight of the response to what is failure on her to actually be responsible for herself. A failure of her personal responsibility, and then having a monumental in response. That dog don't hunt by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, another problem I have with this is, you know, just about every movie that has a damnation curse in it, like someone's doomed to hell before they die. What's kind of a common theme in these movies?
Redemption, usually.
Yeah, there's like this redemption clause, like an act of true selflessness, lifts the curse. And she does that. She does exactly that at one point in the movie. Like, it basically is like, they say, like, okay, the specific of the curse is she gives her a button and says the owner of the button gets dragged to hell. So the loophole is, she can give the button to someone else. So she decides to give him to Stu, the person in question, with whom she's competing for a promotion. And even though he's an asshole, she actually takes pity on him and decides not to do it. So that's an act of true altruism. That should have broken the spell, but nope. And another problem is the very first scene is not so much even like the whole morality tale of do the right thing no matter what. Another thing that really wrecks it is the first scene where there's a child who basically pilfers something from money. And like it's
right from the outset.
That the parents even like tried to give the thing back, and due to some unexplained pettiness, they refused to lift the curse. So I don't know what the whole morality tale comes in with that. So
yeah. I mean, this kid stole a small something, and rather than being grown up about it and saying, okay, well, thank you for returning it, don't do it again, and try to encourage your kid not to do that in the future, they instead say, you know what, this little kid, this child who doesn't know better is, oh god, this part makes me so pissed off. This child who doesn't know better is going straight to hell. Also, remind you, Fire and Brimstone, Dante's Inferno, demons of the pineapple dick variety, screwing you in the keister for all eternity. That kind of hell. So, I don't see how these people can pass judgment on anyone, much less on a woman who is only doing her job and not even condemning this person to death, mind you. She just has a fit because her pride is wounded.
Yeah. And also, I think one of the things I've actually kind of like found so odd about them, I guess it's probably because people wanted to believe this was some kind of return to form for Sam Raimi, because they thought this was some kind of camp, horror comedy, despite it's like some sort of, like, it's kind of like you take one of those horror movies that appeals to people who don't know the difference between dark humor and just depressing, tragic stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have this unholy bastard child between that and the jokeless hipster comedy.
Yeah.
And you've got Drag Me to Hell. Because, like, even with those, like, tasteless horror comedies, like, I knew they were trying to be funny. Like, when I actually watched this movie for the first time, I didn't even know this was supposed to be, like, comic in nature.
Yeah,
until I was informed otherwise. And the thing is that, like, there are parts that... And the other hand is, I guess you could choose to interpret it as a tragic horror and, like, go death to the author, ignore what Sam Raimi says. But the problem is that it's just cheesy enough to ruin that.
Yeah. The closest...
and, like, all the scenes that actually are cheesy and are humorous are non-committal and they're completely unearned.
Yeah, the closest this thing ever gets to looking and feeling like a Sam Raimi horror comedy is when the Lamia possesses, the Luigi looking and makes him dance over flames over the table while this, little plays. It's like,
yeah, it's like completely unearned because the scene is like inherently suspenseful.
Yeah.
I want to contrast this with like